Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wright Virtual Visits. I'm Anna Kaplan, Executive Director of Frank Lloyd Wright's Graycliff, coming to you live from Western New York. And I'll be your host today as we travel virtually all the way across the country to San Rafael, California. Today's visit is a real treat, and as we have not formally featured this site since May 2021, when we paired their visit with Monona Terrace Community and Convention Center in Madison, Wisconsin. Today, you're going to get an insider's look from a former employee and a longtime docent of the Marin County Civic Center. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge and thank my colleague Eric Rogers from the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. This program continues thanks largely to Eric's hard work, dedication, and large amount of patience. This season, we're also pleased to welcome Elisha Marin to our team. We connected with him through his work with the Historic Park Inn in Mason City. While you won't see them on screen today, both Eric and Elisha are working behind the scenes to make this program possible. Eric will be monitoring our Facebook feed and watching for your questions. So please, as always, ask all of the questions. Post your questions and comments directly in the Facebook thread, and we'll be sure to address them during the Q&A portion of today's program. I'd also like to express enormous gratitude to Allison Grant at ACG Productions for her firm's ongoing support of this program. ACG's contributions have been essential in keeping us going. We're now in our 6th season, which is pretty remarkable. ACG works with all kinds of clients, businesses, nonprofits, families, and couples, helping them to tell their story through video. They do brand work, mission videos, weddings, legacy films, and so much more. They're very talented at creating meaningful content. So if you're ever looking for video production services, I hope you'll think of them. Thanks again to Allison, Charlie, and the entire ACG team. So today we'll be joined by the incredibly talented Tom Lai. And behind the camera, we have Libby Garrison, Deputy Director of Marin County's Department of Cultural Services. Thank you, Libby, for facilitating this episode today. Tom himself is now a docent at the Marin County Civic Center, but he brings a very unique perspective, having spent over 30 years, 31 years to be exact, actually working in the building. During that time, he played a significant role in interpreting Wright's design and thoughtfully adapting it to serve a contemporary workforce. And it's worth noting that this is a fully functioning Wright site we're at today, designed to be an active civic center, and that's exactly what it remains today. Tom will be guiding us through both public spaces and some behind-the-scenes areas. And we're going to meet Tom in a minute and then start with some pre-recorded footage of the exterior and entrance, and then go back to live as he takes us deeper into the building. So we're very fortunate to have Tom's insight and expertise today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Tom.
Good morning and welcome to San Rafael, California, the site of the Frank Lloyd Wright Design Marin County Civic Center. I'm Tom Lai, and joining with me is Libby Garrison. Allison, can you please cue up the video with showing the entry experience? Today, we will be visiting the administration building as well as one of the county's offices for permitting and planning. The Civic Center is best known for the semicircular arches that spans 4 hills, with the arches decreasing in size with each floor of the building. It is one of the first large-scale public buildings designed not only to accommodate, but to celebrate post-World War II automobile culture. Cars can drive through the 3 ground floor arches, which you just saw in the distance there. As you enter the building, there is a welcoming sense of space with fresh air blurring the exterior with the interior. We just passed through the Art Deco-inspired gates that let in fresh air even when the gates are closed after business hours. Let's experience Mr. Wright's compression and release technique, where you experience the compression of the 2nd floor ceiling right before you step off the escalator to be released into a 3-story atrium focused on the library. This is the spot where actor Ethan Hawke famously stepped off the escalator in the science fiction Gattaca that was shot right here in the Marin County Civic Center in 1996. And here we are. Here we are live at the atrium of the second floor of the administration building. The Civic Center was Mr. Wright's 770th commission and designed when he was 90 years old. It is both a federal and state historic landmark. It is also the largest of Mr. Wright's buildings that was ever constructed at over 470,000 square feet. In conjunction with a post office, this is the only two government buildings that Mr. Wright designed that were actually built. The Civic Center reflects Mr. Wright's vision for democratic government and his ideas for organic architecture, as evidenced through the incorporation of four hills with a building that has graceful arches that you saw earlier in the pre-recorded script. Mr. Wright drew inspiration from nature and believed that nature can be manifested itself through beautiful buildings. In fact, Mr. Wright was very, very ecstatic at receiving one of his final commissions, and he remarked to architect Aaron Green, who was responsible for a lot of the construction of the Civic Center. He remarked that hopefully they can show how government can operate better as a result of better architecture. Mr. Wright refers to the Civic Center as a good time place, incorporating both the functions of county government as well as culture and recreation through a large master plan that includes a number of other buildings, some built, some never built. Today, we're just focusing on the administration building. I want to call out your attention to the central kind of atrium here. Notice that the walkways narrow as you ascend each floor of the building. And that is by purposefully designed so that Mr. Wright can bring light in from the fourth floor down to the first floor. It's a technique that some architects have referred to as the reverse Guggenheim effect, meaning bringing in light in the reverse manner than the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. The other thing I want to point out is the skylight. Contrary to what many people think, this is not a skylight that was designed by Mr. Wright and leaked. The original plans for the building did not have a skylight, again, reflecting Mr. Wright's blurring of the interior and exterior. Mr. Wright envisioned natural light and air along with rain to irrigate the natural grow plants that are on the ground floor. However, that was not to be. After Mr. Wright passed, before the construction of the building began, the other major architect responsible for completing the Civic Center, William Wesley Peters, incorporated a design to span the 20-foot gap in the atrium, and therefore creating another very visually interesting space that has very exciting highlights you can see here through the shadows. It is those skylights that now, unfortunately, used to leak. It's improved significantly through advances in technology in the use of plexiglass, but this is a case where Mr. Wright did not deserve the notorious recognition for having a leaky roof at the Marin County Civic Center. Allison, can you cue up the slides so that we will move to the next stop for our tour at the Permit Center for the Marin County Community Development Agency? Hello again, and welcome to the offices of the Marin County Community Development Agency. This is a one-stop permitting center that was completed in 2013, reflecting the consolidation of a number of permitting agencies, namely the Planning Department and the Building and Safety Department. This is a very unique and special place in that this is the only office within the Marin County Civic Center where the public can actually see through from the mall to the views of the surrounding hillsides. And this is what creates a very special environment for both visitors as well as employees who work in the building. We will now bring you through the space, which includes accessible work tables.
I'm sorry, I don't feel very comfortable that you're.
In a reflecting a semicircular design consistent with the rest of the circular elements in Mr. Wright's design. We'll now walk through the balcony, which is another very special feature of the design. Follow me. The balcony actually reflects a design principle first seen in the Imperial Hotel, and then later in Falling Water, which is the idea of cantilevered elements. The walls are cantilevered out due to the building being in the earthquake area. And these are basically stucco cement pendant crescents, as Mr. Wright referred to, that frame views of the surrounding hillsides for the public and the employees. This hallway here, you see, extends the entire 500 feet of the administration building and provides access for employees for emergency ingress and egress. And the depth of the balcony here actually provides some passive solar protection by screening the effects of the afternoon sunlight. This is another very interesting feature of the building I want to draw your attention to. Mr. Wright was very much ahead of his time in foreseeing the social implications of providing surroundings that benefit the well-being of people. An attractive work environment is advantageous to the employers and could improve employees' morale and productivity. Here we see a little bit of a conference meeting space that we have, providing employees with great access to light and air through the openable doors. The building is built on a 16-foot grid, which allows maximum flexibility for departments to organize the interior spaces. We'll now walk back into the building to see how one of these spaces is actually designed, implemented through a vision that also promotes democratic principles, as you'll see momentarily. I want to stop off at one of the relatively newly remodeled workstations. Notice that we have individual workstations providing employees with the ability to get light and air through these upper panels, as well as opportunities to collaborate through these workstations. For in this case, this is the building department, lots of plans, and looks like we've got some pre-Halloween candy here being shared. It's a good way to create a neighborhood, as I call it, to allow employees to socialize, work, and really focus on what is important, which is delivering excellent customer service for the customers of the Community Development Agency. The use of the 16-foot grid allows the maximum use of the space here. You have a very large, almost uninterrupted space from one end of the building to the permit center at the other end. The other principle that this design reflects is the idea of democratic assignment of spaces. What the county did was to repurpose and reallocate what used to be private offices that used to line the banks against the window, providing supervisors with private use of space. what the county did was to move those spaces away into the interior mall, allowing the maximum use and access to light and air by most of the employees. Here, we're going to end up this visit with a Q&A session in one of the private offices. While we're doing that, I should point out that the design of the original building envisioned access to light and air on both sides, including the hallway, exterior hallway, as well as the interior mall. However, over time, because of the needs for privacy, you see that the offices, these private offices that back up to the interior mall do have windows and walls that provide some degree of privacy. And this is one area where the design may have fallen a little bit short of Mr. Wright's original vision to allow the government, or to allow people to see the happenings of the government workers. All right, we're now in one of these private offices in the Community Development Agency. This is a typical space that reflects design principles that were articulated in the 1990s as far as the typical, prototypical space allocated for a private office, usually for a supervisor or a manager. Now, as you can see, on one hand, there's still access to the light, although it's filtered through the main view out towards the hillsides. On the other hand, we're backing up to the interior mall and those walkways with some privacy glass here that, as I mentioned earlier, does detract a little bit from the ability of the public to see what's happening inside government office. But this is a much needed modification to ensure privacy for managers and supervisors that use this space. And all the furnishings here were remodeled in 2013 using Herman Miller design that is really compatible with the really futuristic vibe that we developed for the Civic Center, consistent with the vision for Frank Lloyd Wright and the two principal architects, Aaron Green and William Wesley Peters. So with that, that concludes my formal presentation. I'm really excited and to share part of the Civic Center. This is only the tip of the iceberg of the Civic Center complex. And we have an exciting docent tour that covers other parts of the building that you may have seen on the slideshow, including the public hearing chambers for the Board of Supervisors, the library, and a conservation garden, among other places. So
Thank you so much, Tom. That was really wonderful. And I can tell that you've been doing this a while because you are really an expert at walking backwards.
thank you.
And I love the visit to the balcony. The first thing I want to ask you is the office where we are right now. Is this similar to the office that you yourself used to work in?
Yes, it is. This is a small office of about maybe 120 square feet, providing just ample space for workstation, monitors, bookshelves, and chairs for visitors.
And can you tell us what it was like to work at the Civic Center?
I'm happy to. One of the few things that I noticed in a building as old as the Civic Center, we just celebrated the 60th anniversary of the completion of the administration building in 2022, is the HV system is a little bit outdated. So you will get what we call in California microclimates. One part of the building could be very, very cold, or another part of the offices would be very, very warm, all within one department. And that may be due in part to the fact that the assignment of offices have morphed over time. Some departments grew, some departments shrunk. However, the HV system that was laid out under the floors didn't provide the flexibility that you might see with a modern office building to make adjustments so that you have very comfortable temperatures for the employees. That's one thing that I've noticed. The other thing I should share with you is I really hope viewers will have a chance to experience the building as someone who's worked here for so many years in the dramatic interplay of light and shadows that's created, both as you look at the building, whether it's on the backdrop of clear blue California sides, uh, clear blue California skies or overcast, or in the case of the interior arcades where you have very dramatic shadows created depending on how much light is coming through the skylight, the time of the year, or the season of the year. It changes constantly. And certainly, I welcome visitors to visit the building in the dusk hours where there's really some dramatic effects that's created from the interplay of light and the many round light fixtures that you see dotted throughout the complex.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a really good point with the changing of the light. We had a question and comment about the cubicles that you showed us, and you mentioned how the approach had changed. Do you have a sense of what the approach to the space would have been like in Wright's original plan? For example, would there have been desks like at the SC Johnson Administrative Building?
Yes, excellent question. Well, this space certainly is a different environment than you might see with the SC Johnson Administration Building in Racine, Wisconsin, with those very dramatic lily pad designs. Here I would consider more of a compressed space. However, I believe that Aaron Green may have been responsible for a lot of the interior layout for the departments, since Mr. Wright did pass on before the building was completed or actually started. What was very typical in the early 90s when I started my employment at the county would be these very open office space layouts with open desks that really did not have a lot of privacy. But it's a very open layout. It's kind of similar to what you see here in the kind of large workroom here. However, one of the big changes that we made when we redesigned the office is to provide a balance between employees' desire for privacy as well as access to air and light through the design of these modular type Herman Miller furniture, as well as the incorporation, I should say, at some expense of dedicating some of the real estate for shared spaces, as you saw earlier with that kind of central work desk, which depending on which part of the department you're in, reflects the customization that employees made. Some of the desks are oriented vertically against the wall, some are actually horizontally, really reflecting what we call the employee's desire to have unique neighborhoods, much like a neighborhood in the city. That is one of the unique features that we were able to do, in part because Mr. Wright designed space that really allowed customization because of the limited amount of load-bearing walls that you see in the building.
I love how you describe this space as facilitating these neighborhoods, communities, collaboration. I think that that's a really unique perspective. Another question. As always, we want to try to encourage people to actually visit the site. And we're getting a lot of comments about how this tour and the still photos just are not doing the site justice. So can you tell us, how does one take a guided tour, maybe with you personally, of the Marin County Civic Center?
Of course, we have a very robust Civic Center docent program that's overseen by my colleague here, Libby Garrison. The tours are available every Friday at 10:30. It's a 1.5 hour tours. This summer, we actually added a second tour due to the popularity of the Civic Center as the destination, not only for visitors from the Bay Area, but also throughout the country and also in the world. I just had our first visitors from Denmark yesterday in the tour. Very exciting. So we've added a second tour that is on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You do have to reserve tickets, which are very reasonably priced. And for an hour and a half, we offer not only architectural details about the building that may be of note to architects of Frank Lloyd Wright, but also the social circumstances around the government, what it was like in Marin County in 1960 when there were big decisions made to establish a new county building, a new county center north of the historic uh, court building that used to house a majority of the county departments. Two, in some of our tours, we actually get into the connection between Mr. Wright's private life, which, as you know, is marked with controversy, scandal. We make some connections to the Civic Center with Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright's life. So that makes it for a very strong three-pronged approach to creating a very exciting, interesting environment. All of our docents are very well trained, and we really also try to offer opportunity to have an interactive program so that what we see is not necessarily gospel. The Civic Center is a work of art, and really, how much you value it depends on how what you see in the building. And it constantly amazes me what I'll hear a remark from a visitor that really changes the way I look at a certain element of the building. And that is one of the reasons why I started to be a volunteer docent. And I'm so excited about sharing my love of the building along with my fellow docents with the public. This is a very exciting, very unique building, very futuristic building, and really welcome visitors to come and check out the Marin County Civic Center. As I said earlier, today, limited tour only covers a portion of the Civic Center. We have other facilities that are part of that tour that's available.
Yeah, it seems like a vast space. Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing with us today. Your enthusiasm really comes across, and your love of the space. Before we leave, could you just briefly share your favorite part of the building?
Of course, there are many, many favorite parts. I am a big science fiction fan, so um, one of the things I always think about is Ethan Hawke exiting the escalator from the first to the second floor, which is now memorialized in the movie Gattaca. The other space that I think is very, very special is the what we call the conservation garden, which is at the very top of the south end of the administration building, where you actually will see and look out over the 1,500-foot long building, which is a very long building, quarter of a mile, and really appreciate what Mr. Wright's vision when he said, "I will build bridges that will, with graceful arches, that will bridge these hills of the Civic Center and the new complex for county government." Those are the two special places, the top of the escalator and the conservation garden. Of course, there's also a part of the Civic Center that we don't actually cover, which is the Hall of Justice, with the very historic details of architecture that are different than what you see in the administration building, as well as a very, very sad shooting that happened in the courts shortly after the Hall of Justice was opened up to the public I think the shooting happened in 1970.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for hosting us today. Thank you to all who tuned in. Before we leave you, I know I'm a broken record, but I have to encourage you to experience Wright's architecture in person. While Wright Virtual Visits is a wonderful educational resource and we all have a lot of fun doing it, there's truly nothing like being in these spaces in person. And that's really why we created this program, to inspire you to visit these publicly accessible Wright sites. And when you do, you're not only experiencing Wright's genius firsthand, you're also supporting the preservation of these incredible places. And that's my pitch. We're nearing the end of our 2025 Wright Virtual Visits season, with the final episode planned for Thursday, December 4th, same time, same place, where I will be taking you to my Wright site, Graycliff, and giving you a sneak peek of our brand new visitor center that's in the works. And I can't wait. Just a reminder that you can watch recordings of this and all our past episodes at savewright.org/WVV. Thank you so much again to Tom and Libby, and to all of you for supporting this program. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, Anna.